Imagine a remote speck of land battered by the North Atlantic, a rugged sentinel known as Eilean Mòr. On its highest point, a formidable lighthouse stood, a beacon of hope against the treacherous seas. It was December 15, 1900, when the relief vessel Hesperus, commanded by Captain James Harvey, approached this lonely outpost. Their mission was routine: resupply the 3 lighthouse keepers and rotate personnel. But as the Hesperus drew closer, an eerie silence hung in the air, a silence that felt profoundly wrong. The usual welcoming signals were absent. No flag fluttered from the mast. No familiar figures emerged from the tower to greet their arrival. A sense of foreboding, cold and sharp as the sea wind, began to settle over the crew. Captain Harvey, a man seasoned by decades on the unforgiving ocean, immediately sensed the anomaly. The 3 keepers, Thomas Marshall, James Duckett, and Donald MacArthur, were meticulous men, known for their strict adherence to protocol. Yet, the lighthouse lamp, which should have been extinguished for the day, was dark. No smoke rose from the chimney, no supplies were being hoisted, and the small landing stage was utterly deserted. This was not merely an oversight, it was an unprecedented breach of conduct, hinting at something far more sinister than a simple lapse. Harvey's brow furrowed, his experienced eyes scanning the desolate landscape for any sign of life, any explanation for this unsettling stillness. He ordered the ship's horn to sound, a deep, resonant bellow that echoed across the craggy cliffs, yet it was met only by the mournful cry of gulls and the relentless roar of the waves. Again and again, the Hesperus blasted its warning, its presence a stark contrast to the profound quiet emanating from the island. No answering signal, no wave, no flicker of movement. The isolation of Eilean Mòr, usually a testament to human resilience, now felt like a shroud, suffocating any potential response. The crew exchanged uneasy glances, their initial confusion slowly morphing into genuine alarm. Something was undeniably, terribly amiss. The inexplicable silence compelled Captain Harvey to make an urgent decision, one that deviated from standard procedure. He knew that sending a party ashore during such rough conditions was risky, but the gravity of the situation outweighed the dangers. The possibility of an accident, an illness, or something far worse gnawed at him. He selected Joseph Moore, a relief keeper who knew the island and its routines intimately, to lead the investigation. This wasn't merely a resupply stop anymore. It had become an emergency, a desperate search for answers on a desolate rock where the very air seemed to hum with unspoken dread. As Moore and his 2 companions prepared their small boat, a heavy tension hung in the air. The fierce December gales had subsided, leaving behind a deceptively calm but chilling sea, perfect for reflecting the grim determination on their faces. They pushed off from the Hesperus, rowing towards the silent tower, each stroke carrying them closer to an enigma that would baffle investigators for generations. The lighthouse, usually a symbol of guidance and safety, now loomed like a silent, accusing monument against the vast, indifferent sky, holding its secrets close. What awaited them on Eilean Mòr was a mystery so profound it would etch itself into the annals of maritime folklore. The small investigation party, led by second mate Joseph Moore, disembarked onto the rocky shores of Eilean Mòr, the silence of the island pressing in on them. The climb to the lighthouse, usually a routine ascent, now felt heavy with an unspoken dread. As they neared the entrance, the absence of any welcoming figure, any sound of life, any sign of the usual domestic hustle, became profoundly unsettling. The door to the lighthouse, found unlocked and ajar, swung inward, with an almost imperceptible creak, inviting them into a silence far more chilling than the howling winds outside. It was a silence that spoke not of peace, but of an abrupt, unnatural void, an emptiness where life had so recently thrived. Stepping inside, the first discovery was the dining room, a scene frozen in time, a tableau of domesticity suddenly abandoned. A half-eaten meal lay cold on the table, plates still set, forks resting beside them, as if the three men had merely stepped away for a moment, expecting to return. The most jarring detail was an overturned chair, lying haphazardly on its side, suggesting not a gentle departure but a sudden, perhaps even violent, interruption. This wasn't merely a meal left unfinished. It was a banqueting hall of the absurd, where the guests had vanished mid-bite, leaving behind only the spectral echoes of their last moments, a silent question mark hanging in the air. Further exploration revealed the living quarters above, equally undisturbed yet profoundly unsettling. The beds were neatly made, covers pulled taut, untouched. Since their last occupants had risen, there were no signs of a struggle, no hastily packed bags, no indication of a planned exit. In the main living area, a clock stood motionless, its hands frozen at precisely 9, though whether morning or evening remained a haunting unknown. It was as if time itself had ceased to flow within the thick stone walls, a silent testament to an event that had defied its very passage, leaving behind an immutable monument to a mystery. The search continued, delving deeper into the personal spaces of the missing men. On the coat hooks, a crucial detail emerged. 2 sets of oilskins, heavy and waterproof, were gone, but one remained, still hanging on its peg. This detail instantly complicated any simple theory of all 3 men being swept away by a rogue wave or leaving together in a hurry. Why would one man leave his protective gear behind if they were facing the elements? Personal items like pipes, tobacco pouches, and even a half-finished knitting project lay casually discarded, suggesting no imminent journey, no urgent flight. Merely the everyday detritus of lives suddenly, inexplicably erased. These initial findings painted a picture that defied all logical explanation. It wasn't the aftermath of a ferocious storm, for the interior was largely undisturbed. It wasn't a pre-planned departure, given the uneaten food and personal effects left behind. The overturned chair, the stopped clock, the missing yet incomplete sets of oilskins, each detail, rather than offering clarity, only served to deepen the enigma, twisting the narrative into something far more sinister and perplexing. The relief crew, initially expecting a simple explanation, now faced a profound, chilling void, a silent disappearance that whispered of an unknown force, an impossible event, leaving them with an unsettling sense of dread that would linger for decades. The abandoned dinner and silent clock painted a chilling picture, but the true enigma lay not in what was left behind, but in who was missing. 3 men, 3 distinct lives, entrusted with Eilean Mòr's lonely vigil, had vanished without a trace, leaving only questions. James Duckett, the principal keeper, Thomas Marshall, the second assistant, and Donald MacArthur, the newest addition. Their sudden, inexplicable disappearance transformed a remote outpost into history's most enduring maritime mystery. Before speculating, we must understand the men, their characters, histories, and the complex personalities confined within that isolated tower. At the helm of this isolated trio was James Ducat, a seasoned veteran of the Northern Lighthouse Board, with decades of service across Scottish lights. Ducat was known for his meticulous nature, unwavering dedication, and a cautious temperament honed by years battling unforgiving elements. As principal keeper, he carried the heavy responsibility for the station's operation and his men's well-being. His experience was invaluable, his judgment trusted. It was almost unthinkable that such a disciplined man would abandon his post or allow a breach of protocol without extreme duress. His presence was a testament to stability, making his absence all the more perplexing. Serving as the second assistant was Thomas Marshall, a man who, like Ducat, brought significant experience to Eilean Mòr. Marshall was slightly younger, but possessed similar gravitas, a steady hand, typical of those choosing the solitary life of a lighthouse keeper. He was known to be quiet, dependable, and thoroughly professional, a reliable anchor in the often turbulent world of lighthouse duties. His background suggested contentment with the sea's rhythms and his demanding profession. He was a practical man focused on the task at hand, making his sudden vanishing alongside his colleagues a stark contradiction to his known character. The third crew member, and perhaps the most intriguing personality, was Donald MacArthur. Unlike Ducat and Marshall, MacArthur was a relief keeper, less seasoned, and known for his volatile temperament. Records indicated minor disciplinary issues, including a fine at another lighthouse for breaking rules. He was prone to fits of anger and could be quite outspoken, a stark contrast to his senior colleagues' quiet professionalism. Placing such a fiery disposition in Eilean Mòr's confined, isolated environment inevitably raised questions about friction. Was his known temper a clue, or merely a red herring? The dynamic between these three men, the cautious veteran, the dependable professional, and the temperamental newcomer, formed the human core of the mystery. In the claustrophobic confines of a lighthouse, isolated for weeks, eccentricities could easily amplify into tensions. No official reports hinted at serious discord, yet their nature begs the question, did internal strife play a role in their fate? Or were their distinct characters merely a backdrop against which a terrifying, external force acted? Understanding who they were and how they interacted is crucial, for Eilean Mòr's enigma may lie not just in crashing waves, but in the untold stories of the men who guarded its light. The grim discovery on Eilean Mòr sent ripples of alarm through the Northern Lighthouse Board, culminating in the dispatch of their superintendent, Robert Muirhead, a man of considerable experience and gravitas. It was December 29, 1900, when Muirhead finally reached the desolate rock, his mission clear, to unravel the baffling disappearance of Thomas Marshall, James Ducat, and Donald MacArthur. What he found only served to deepen the chilling enigma. His initial inspection of the lighthouse interior, though thorough, yielded no new clues beyond the unsettling scene already reported. The untouched meal, the overturned chair, the absent oilskins, each detail a silent scream of sudden, inexplicable abandonment. Muirhead immediately launched a meticulous search of the island itself, hoping to find any trace, any physical evidence that could shed light on the men's fate. Every crevice, every rocky outcrop, every inch of the rugged terrain was scoured by his team. Yet the vast, unforgiving landscape offered nothing. No bodies, no remnants of struggle, no discarded tools, no personal effects. It was as if the three men had simply vanished into the thin, cold air of the North Atlantic. The sheer emptiness was as profound as the eerie silence within the lighthouse walls, amplifying the growing sense of dread. One of the earliest and most persistent theories to emerge was that a colossal wave, an unprecedented rogue, had swept the men from the western landing platform. This idea gained some traction, given the exposed nature of the island and the known ferocity of winter storms in the Hebrides. Perhaps they had ventured out during a squall, attempting to secure equipment or check on the landing stage, only to be overwhelmed by an unforeseen wall of water, dragged into the churning abyss. It was a plausible, albeit tragic, explanation for their sudden absence, one that offered a grim kind of closure. However, Muirhead, with his seasoned eye, quickly identified critical inconsistencies that undermined the giant wave theory. The storm that had raged in the days leading up to the discovery, while severe, wasn't unprecedented. More importantly, the western landing platform, the supposed site of such a cataclysmic event, showed no signs of recent, overwhelming damage. While wet, it was intact. Furthermore, why would all three men be outside during such a storm, leaving the lighthouse unattended, especially when two sets of oilskins remained neatly hung inside? This detail alone cast serious doubt on the simple explanation of a natural disaster. The superintendent's report, compiled after weeks of fruitless searching and meticulous questioning, painted a picture not of accident, but of profound mystery. He noted the clock stopped, the untouched food, the unmade beds, the missing oilskins for the principal keeper and one assistant, yet two remaining. These weren't the hallmarks of a routine mishap or a planned departure. They were the fingerprints of an inexplicable event, a sudden, violent, or perhaps even supernatural occurrence that had plucked 3 experienced men from their post without leaving a single, coherent clue. The official investigation had begun, and with it, the legend of the Eilean Mòr mystery was irrevocably solidified, defying all logical explanation from its very inception. The most chilling discovery, however, lay within the lighthouse itself. The logbook. Not just any logbook, but the personal diary kept by Thomas Marshall, the second assistant keeper. Unlike official records, which were meticulously maintained, Marshall's entries painted a starkly different, deeply unsettling picture of the days leading up to the disappearance. His handwriting, usually neat, began to show signs of strain, a tremor hinting at profound distress. It was a window into the unraveling minds of men trapped not just by a storm, but by something far more insidious, something seeping into the very fabric of their sanity. The early entries documented a furious storm, not uncommon for the Flannan Isles, yet Marshall described it with unusual intensity, as if the tempest itself harbored a malevolent will. He noted winds of unprecedented ferocity, waves crashing over the lantern room, rare even in the worst gales. But it wasn't just the weather. He began to record strange behaviors from his companions. Ducat, the usually stoic principal keeper, was very quiet, uncharacteristic. MacArthur, known for his temper, was reportedly weeping, a complete breakdown. The storm was a barrier, but something psychological eroded their composure from within. As the days progressed, fear escalated, permeating every word Marshall penned. His entries became increasingly cryptic, laced with phrases defying rational explanation. He spoke of voices in the wind and shadows that moved in the light. The lighthouse, once a beacon, seemed to transform into a cage of paranoia. He detailed arguments, not about duties, but about an unseen presence that tormented them. The keepers, seasoned by isolation, succumbed to an internal terror surpassing any external threat. The diary was no longer a record, but a descent into shared madness, a chilling testament to minds under siege. The penultimate entry was the most disturbing. Marshall wrote of the 3 men praying together, an act of desperation from individuals who had lost all hope. He mentioned MacArthur had calmed down, but only after being punished, a cryptic remark that chilled investigators. Then came the declaration, "God forgive me." What transgression, what act of despair did this plea refer to? Was it a confession, a cry for absolution, or simply sanity breaking under unbearable strain? The entries painted a picture of men besieged by an encroaching, unseen horror. The final entry, dated December 15th, was stark and terrifyingly brief. Storm ended, sea calm. God is over all. This abrupt shift from abject terror to a declaration of calm, just hours before their disappearance, was perhaps the most unsettling detail. It offered no explanation, no final clue, only a chilling silence after the storm of dread. It was as if the act of writing ceased, not because the storm ended, but because something else had taken its place. The logbook, once a simple record, became a monument to documented anguish, a silent scream etched in ink, leaving behind profound terror and the enduring question, what truly happened in the Flannan Isles lighthouse? The official explanation, stubbornly clung to for decades, posits a colossal rogue wave, an oceanic titan that simply swept the 3 men out to sea. It's a narrative that, at first glance, offers a grim yet understandable conclusion, the overwhelming power of nature. The Flannan Isles are, after all, a brutal crucible of wind and water, and the thought of an unprecedented surge swallowing 3 souls whole has a certain tragic poetry. But as we peel back the layers, this convenient explanation begins to fray, revealing inconsistencies that are impossible to ignore, forcing us to question the very foundation of this so-called truth. Consider the structural integrity of the lighthouse itself. This was a fortress, built to withstand the most furious tempests the North Atlantic could hurl at it. While some equipment on the landing platform was indeed dislodged, and a metal box was found twisted, the robust stone tower, its walls, and its primary structure remained entirely intact. A wave powerful enough to snatch 3 experienced men from their positions, potentially even from inside the structure or its immediate vicinity, would surely have left far more significant, undeniable scars on the edifice itself, rather than merely scattering a few ancillary items. The damage observed simply doesn't align with the force required to erase 3 human beings without a trace. Furthermore, the supposed location where the men were caught by this monstrous wave is equally problematic. They were found missing from the western landing platform. A precarious spot, yes, but one that experienced keepers would approach with extreme caution during a storm. More importantly, the path leading down to it from the lighthouse was steep and protected by iron railings. For 3 seasoned lighthouse keepers intimately familiar with the dangers of their environment, to be simultaneously caught off guard and swept away from such a position stretches credulity. It implies a level of negligence or an event so sudden and overwhelming that it defies their collective experience and the robust safety protocols in place. If you're finding this unraveling of the official story as intriguing as we are, hit that like button and tell us in the comments. What do you think happened? The giant wave theory conveniently sidesteps the most chilling piece of evidence: the diary entries. How does a rogue wave explain the profound, escalating fear documented by Marshall, the cryptic references to a storm unlike any seen, and the palpable terror that permeated the final days? A wave is a natural phenomenon, a force of physics, not a psychological tormentor that drives men to madness or causes them to abandon their posts in such a bizarre fashion. Moreover, it offers no explanation for the locked door from the inside, the missing oilskins, or the utterly inexplicable state of the kitchen, ready for a meal that was never eaten. These details are not mere anomalies. They are gaping holes in the official narrative. Ultimately, the explanation of a giant wave feels like a desperate attempt to impose order on chaos, to find a rational, albeit tragic, answer to an inherently irrational mystery. It asks us to ignore the psychological horror etched into the logbook, to dismiss the inconsistencies of the scene, and to accept that 3 professional mariners in their element were simply unfortunate victims of an act of God. But the evidence, or rather the lack thereof, coupled with the profound strangeness of the final days, compels us to reject this simplistic conclusion. If a wave didn't take them, then what terrifying unseen force, or perhaps what deeply human drama, unfolded on the lonely Flannan Isles? The truth, it seems, lies far beyond the reach of any storm. The official narrative, designed to soothe and simplify, crumbled under logical scrutiny. A giant wave leaves a distinct signature, and Eilean Mòr bore none of it. This failure forces us to look beyond the rational, to the island itself, long whispered about in hushed tones by those who knew the treacherous North Atlantic. For centuries, Eilean Mòr was not merely a remote rock. It was a character in local sagas, a sentinel shrouded in ancient dread. Its jagged cliffs and churning waters were stages for tales older than human memory. The folklore of the Outer Hebrides is rich with stories of the sea's unpredictable nature, but also its sinister inhabitants. Fishermen spoke of blue men of the Minch, malevolent water spirits luring sailors to their doom, or selkies, shape-shifting creatures whose true forms were seals. Eilean Mòr, however, held its own unique terror. Local legends, passed down through generations, often centered on an ancient presence, a dark entity, guarding the island, demanding tribute or simply repelling human intrusion. Some tales spoke of a great bird snatching men from the rocks, others of spectral ships sailing through the fog, portending disaster. These weren't just stories. They were warnings woven into maritime life, designed to instill primal respect for forces beyond human control. Imagine, then, 3 men confined to a stone tower on such an island, day after day, week after week. How would these deeply ingrained fears, these Inherited warnings begin to manifest. Marshall's journal entries dismissing the storm as the like of which I have never seen, and later describing unusual behavior from the other keepers, suddenly take on a chilling new dimension. His increasingly desperate tone, the cryptic references to something else, and the final terrifying realization that they are silent. Could these not be the ravings of men whose rational minds were slowly eroded by the very legends they scoffed at? The boundary between the tangible and the terrifyingly imagined would surely blur under such relentless psychological pressure. This leads us to an unsettling question. Was there a genuine supernatural force, or did profound isolation, the relentless howl of the wind and the weight of centuries of dark folklore drive these men to collective madness? Perhaps the great bird of legend became a shadow on the wall, the blue men, the terrifying reflection in a window pane during a storm. The human mind, when pushed to its absolute limits, can conjure horrors more vivid than any monster from myth. The fear documented in Marshall's diary might not have been a reaction to an external threat, but to an internal collapse, a shared hallucination of such intensity that it became their horrifying reality, culminating in an inexplicable disappearance. Whether Eilean Mòr truly harbored ancient spirits or simply possessed an uncanny ability to unravel the human psyche, the outcome was tragically the same. The lighthouse keepers vanished, leaving behind a mystery that continues to haunt the imagination. The whispers of the sea, once just local lore, now serve as a chilling testament to the island's enduring power, a reminder that some places refuse to yield their secrets to logic or science. Perhaps the most disturbing explanation isn't a definitive one, but the terrifying possibility that the island itself, with its deep-seated legends and unforgiving nature, simply claimed them, drawing them into a mystery as vast and inscrutable as the ocean itself. Following the eerie silence and unsettling discoveries, the official inquiry fell to Robert Muirhead, a meticulous superintendent from the Northern Lighthouse Board. He arrived at Eilean Mòr not with notions of spectral encounters, but with a pragmatist's resolve to unravel the enigma through logic. Muirhead understood the profound implications of an unsolved mystery involving 3 experienced keepers. His initial assessment, however, quickly revealed a scene devoid of clear answers, defying conventional explanation. He meticulously documented every detail, from undisturbed beds to untouched meals, each observation deepening the perplexing void, hinting at something far beyond simple human error. Muirhead's investigation was relentless, a testament to his unwavering dedication. He interviewed everyone connected to the pharaoh, from the relief keeper Joseph Moore, who discovered the absence, to the families of the Yao, missing men, scrutinizing every word. Yet each testimony only reinforced the impenetrable wall of the unknown. He faced immense pressure to provide a definitive answer, not just from superiors, but from a public hungry for closure, eager to dismiss unsettling whispers of the supernatural. Muirhead, however, refused to be swayed by convenience, knowing in his gut that the truth remained stubbornly out of reach, eluding every logical pathway. Despite weeks of exhaustive inquiry, the trail remained, cold, riddled with frustrating loose ends. The missing oilskins, the overturned chair, the untouched provisions, each detail screamed defiance against easy explanation. Muirhead wrestled with the inconsistencies, the glaring gaps no logical sequence could bridge. When the rogue wave theory gained traction, offering a convenient, albeit flimsy resolution, Muirhead found himself in a difficult position. He understood the appeal of a natural disaster to quell public anxiety. Yet, deep down, he harbored profound doubts, recognizing the glaring lack of corroborating evidence for such a catastrophic event, a void he couldn't ignore. For Muirhead, the rogue wave theory was merely a pacifier, a narrative constructed to fill an uncomfortable void. He questioned how a wave powerful enough to sweep away 3 men from the high platform could leave the lighthouse virtually undamaged, without a single broken pane or structural compromise. The very notion seemed to defy the brutal physics of the sea. This internal conflict gnawed at him, transforming the professional inquiry into a personal torment. The Eilean Mòr mystery became an unwelcome companion, a shadow following him, whispering questions without answers, a constant reminder of the limits of human understanding and the sea's indifferent, terrifying power. The case of the Flannan Isles remained an open wound in Muirhead's distinguished career, a puzzle he could never truly solve. Even years later, the memory of the desolate Lighthouse and the vanished keepers would resurface, a stark testament to a mystery refusing to yield. He carried the burden of those unanswered questions, the faces of the missing men etched into his conscience. Robert Muirhead's tireless efforts, though ultimately inconclusive, solidified his reputation for integrity. More profoundly, the Eilean Mòr enigma cemented its place as an enduring maritime mystery, a chilling narrative perpetuated by the dedicated superintendent who, despite his best efforts, could never truly escape its haunting grip. Despite the official report and Muirhead's painstaking efforts, the void left by the disappearing keepers of Eilean Mòr refused to be truly filled. His theory, while plausible, never quite extinguished the embers of doubt, leaving fertile ground for more unsettling modern interpretations. In the decades since, as psychological understanding evolved and maritime history revealed darker undercurrents, new speculative theories have emerged, each more chilling. These narratives attempt to reconcile the inexplicable silence with known facts, pushing boundaries from tragic accident to something far more sinister, born from the very gaps in evidence Muirhead struggled to bridge. One prominent and deeply unsettling theory posits an internal conflict, a dark drama played out within the lighthouse walls. Imagine 3 men, isolated for weeks on a remote rock, buffeted by relentless storms, their nerves frayed by constant ocean roar and crushing solitude. A trivial disagreement exacerbated by extreme stress could escalate into a violent altercation. Perhaps an accidental death that panicked the survivors into disposing of the body and fleeing, or even a premeditated murder. The missing oilskins, the overturned chair, elements Muirhead dismissed, could be reinterpreted as silent evidence of a struggle, leaving only chilling emptiness. Another deeply disturbing hypothesis suggests a collective or individual descent into madness. The psychological toll of extreme isolation in such an unforgiving, claustrophobic environment is well documented. Cabin fever, acute paranoia, vivid hallucinations, and profound stress could have gripped one or all of the men. Perhaps a keeper, driven to psychosis, attacked the others in a fit of delusion, leading to a desperate struggle and their eventual demise or disappearance into the raging sea. Or, in shared delusion, they might have collectively walked into the tumultuous ocean, believing they were escaping some unseen terrible horror. Then there's the chilling specter of an external malevolent human force. Eilean Mòr's remote location, far from regular shipping lanes and watchful eyes, made it an ideal clandestine rendezvous point. Could the keepers have stumbled upon a sophisticated smuggling operation, ruthless pirates seeking temporary refuge, or even a foreign spy vessel conducting secret activities under darkness? Their sudden disappearance could then be attributed to their becoming unwilling witnesses, brutally silenced to protect sensitive or criminal operations. The lighthouse's meticulous state, suggesting no forced entry, might simply indicate a surprise attack, or that the men were lured away, leaving no trace. What makes these modern theories so enduringly compelling is their ability to leverage the very absence of concrete evidence. The lack of bodies, the incomplete log entries, the peculiar and unsettling state of the lighthouse. Each anomaly becomes a vast, terrifying canvas for our darkest imaginings. Whether it was the raw brutality of human conflict, the insidious creep of madness in isolation, or the calculated violence of shadowy figures from the sea, Eilean Mòr remains a profound testament to the power of the unknown. It forces us to confront not just the dangers of the natural world, but the terrifying depths of human nature, and the chilling possibility that some mysteries are designed never to be solved, forever haunting our understanding. After decades of relentless speculation, exhaustive investigations, and countless theories, the stark reality of Eilean Mòr remains unchanged, a profound, unsettling silence. The lighthouse stands as a stoic sentinel, its beam piercing the Atlantic darkness, yet offering no illumination into the fate of Thomas Marshall, James Ducat, and Donald MacArthur. No irrefutable evidence ever surfaced to definitively explain their vanishing, leaving a void logic struggles to fill. Every hypothesis, from rogue waves to internal strife, from madness to piracy, ultimately dissolves into mere conjecture. The sea, vast and indifferent, guards its secrets with unwavering resolve. This enduring absence of closure cemented the Eilean Mòr mystery into both maritime history and popular folklore. It's a tale told around crackling fires, a chilling anecdote shared on stormy nights, a ghost story for the modern age. The isolated rock, once a beacon of safety, transformed into a symbol of primal fear, disappearing without a trace, swallowed by forces beyond human comprehension. Authors penned novels, filmmakers drew inspiration, and enthusiasts dissect every detail, hoping to unlock the truth. The story transcends its context, becoming a universal metaphor for the terrifying allure of the unexplained, tugging at our collective imagination. Why does this particular vanishing act resonate so deeply, even over a century later? Perhaps it's the sheer audacity of the disappearance, three seasoned men simply ceasing to exist in a seemingly secure environment. Or perhaps it's the chilling realization that even with advancing technology, some corners of our world defy logical explanation. The Eilean Mòr mystery serves as a stark reminder of our fragility, our vulnerability to nature's whims, and the vastness of the unknown just beyond our understanding. It taps into our deepest anxieties about isolation, civilization's thin veneer, and the lurking darkness that can consume even the most prepared. The ocean, in its boundless majesty and terrifying unpredictability, remains the central character in this enduring drama. It is a force demanding respect, often exacting a heavy price from those who challenge its dominion. Eilean Mòr's lighthouse, a testament to human ingenuity against the elements, ultimately bore witness to the sea's triumph. Whether a monstrous wave, a clandestine encounter, or an internal breakdown, the true culprit was ultimately facilitated by the relentless, unforgiving environment of the North Atlantic. The three men, bound by duty and isolated by profession, became inextricably linked to the power they sought to tame. And so, the legend of the Flannan Isles faroleros persists, an echoing silence across the waves. It is a haunting ballad of the sea, a permanent question mark etched into Scotland's remote archipelago. Their story is a powerful, somber reminder that some secrets are meant to remain with the elements, forever shrouded in mist and spray, defying human inquiry. As Eilean Mòr's beams continue their lonely vigil, they illuminate not only treacherous waters, but also the profound depths of our own fascination with the unexplained. The vanished men serve as eternal guardians of an unsolved enigma, challenging us to ponder the true extent of the ocean's power and the mysteries hidden within its vast, unfathomable expanse. What truly happened on that fateful night? Perhaps only the sea knows, and it isn't telling.